Stuart, thank you for joining me. You're Director of Sales and Marketing at Glider. Could you tell me a little bit about what your role entails?
Yep, so as Sales and Marketing Director, I guess it's my job first and foremost to get the business appropriately positioned and make sure the market really understands who we are, what we do, but importantly, how we can deliver value into their organisation, onto their programmes, onto their projects or into their built estate.
As an industry, we know we're slow to change, but we can't dismiss the fact that we know a new era of digitisation is upon us. But there does seem to be a sort of an element of reluctance in some parties to sort of join that digital sort of revolution. Where does moving into a digitised sort of environment sit? Does it have to be client-led?
I think it's a place for all, in reality. We saw right at the advent of the BIM mandates, if we were talking about, I guess, recent transformation and pivotal points for that, where there was a big vendor push. Some of the large American global vendors were pushing technology, and then all of a sudden information management, or probably BIM, came synonymous with 3D models and Revit. Most recently, and the government as a major work-giving client, really putting their shoulder behind the standards. Other major asset owners started to sit up and take note about the value of having control of their information. Their trouble is not having the expertise necessarily in-house to enact upon that, and so having to work then with consultant advisories or responsible principal contractors who could offer that support as well.
Do we need to sort of find a better way of actually understanding what digitisation can offer? So, there's been a lot of talk about early contractor involvement, but is this about early client involvement in terms of a client setting an agenda right from the beginning and actually understanding exactly what they want to know at the end of that project?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big learning points, even from my tenure at Glider and having spent nearly 30 years in this sector and space, is recognising the value of that early stage engagement, getting a client and their operational teams, and ultimately with an understanding of what the building use and intent of use will be, getting them involved early stage design, making sure the design team are aware, making sure clearly that we can specify what their requirements are. When we think about information that's needed to drive decisions, we're then supporting an understanding of what data is needed to feed into that information set that helps guide and support those decisions. Historically, the position's been we'll maybe consider, as we get close to handover, thinking about the operational needs and bringing the client in at that point. There's a whole drive most recently around government soft landings, but actually even in the private sector outside of government soft landings, we're starting to see operational teams really taking an interest, thinking about what's the information procurement look like, getting involved in user journey mapping, and we've certainly supported that as well, thinking about the end user occupants, whoever they may be, whether it's a prison, a school, an office, thinking about the people that need to support and maintain that building and what they might need from it in terms of its information as well. So yes, certainly early involvement, absolutely key.
It also seems that it's not one size fits all in terms of every client, every building has its own individual journey and sort of outputs in terms of what you want to know and what you need to know. As an industry, if we almost tried to sort of standardise the approach, and that clearly I don't think is working.
I think one of the drives of the BIM mandate was to take a cottage industry of quite disaggregated actors in that workflow, quite a hierarchical way of working, and actually get people working to the same standards and approach. But it's a guiding process, and there's certainly enough latitude in that for clients really to articulate their requirements, for architectural and engineering design teams to work with contractors at a buildability level, to really tune into what the client's trying to achieve, but do that under the guidance and framework of standards.
When we look at digitisation, there's lots of different terminology. So we've got BIM, we've got smart buildings, we've got CDEs, common data environments. Is there confusion around what each one does and where they all sit, and sort of what the differences are between each of those?
For sure. I mean, I would hate to be a client in this market. Even coming to an event like today, it can be quite overwhelming when you're looking around. Certainly, the digital impact area. trying to discern and understand what the vendors or suppliers or consultancy partners can offer and support you. We've kind of created our own vernacular as well. You know, there's certainly a BIMP sphere, and there's a cohort of people who speak a common language, but that's really starting to relax now. We're seeing at an executive, well, everything from an executive level right down to practitioners, trades, who really want to get tuned into information management and really understand the importance of what good information practice, good information management will mean, and then trying to discern the difference between the technologies, the common data environments, the manifestation of those in terms of, say, a digital twin as a digital representation of the physical asset, and really trying to say, how is that relevant to our business in our context?
So you mentioned there about this sort of the BIM sphere and the fact it's starting to cascade through these organisations. It does sometimes appear that digitisation is still restricted to the big sort of clients, the big sort of tier one contractors and consultancies, and that, you know, is digitisation being too, you know, overcomplicated and over-engineered, that it's actually becoming restrictive to smaller businesses?
I think it would be fair to say in the 2014 to 2016 period, with that mandate looming, that large organisations had maybe the buying power and they were able to sponsor champions in their organisations, and some smaller organisations may have been left behind slightly. But right now, and probably Glide are a testament to it, we find ourselves as a 6-year-old business, but we've doubled in size during lockdown, and because of our size, in terms of the types of applications that we've been able to utilise, the agility that we can exercise. So I think absolutely there's a place for, you know, smaller businesses to really be the disruptors and to drive that to drive that change. I think what's key for me is finding those advocates and champions in any size of business that are really tuned into what the business need is and how technology and digital can help support the business objectives, and communicate that in a way that is understood, and we can guide even those dinosaurs in industry. We can guide them appropriately through to that path of enlightenment and a more effective, more efficient, more sustainable business.
You mentioned the dinosaurs with the industry. I mean, as a sector, we have been told we are slow to react and slow to change, and there is we've always done it this way. You know, are we now at a new era? You know, we've got, you know, more stringent, you know, legislation and regulations coming in. You know, we've got, you know, a closer look at quality and competence and value. You know, do you think now's that sort of catalyst for a change coming?
In a funny way, as much as the pandemic has been disastrous for many of us in terms of digital transformation of our industry of construction, in probably a 3-month period, when we reflect back on March 20, everybody turned to virtual working. We all got used to collaborating and working online. We're probably more productive in terms of our output that we worked to in that period. And then on top of that, when you put in things like the building safety bill, there's several things that have happened in terms of planets aligning that have meant that we've not for the first time, but I think we've genuinely seen the advantage that digital can bring. And, you know, whether it is productivity, whether it is making our businesses more resilient, whether it is extending our reach because we can run virtual meetings, and we've proven as a business, as industry, that you can actually deliver projects remotely as well, you know, leveraging technology.
So one last question. We're at Future Build. You're exhibiting at Future Build. So if we were, you know, to look to the future, if there was one thing that you would like delegates from the show to walk away thinking about, what would you like that to be?
I'd like them to get excited by the opportunity that from our perspective in digital impact that technology can bring. But when you boil all of that down, to really understand the value of data and well curated data, I think that's really important. At a people level, I think I mentioned it earlier, but the idea of champions and really investing in champions at all levels of business. I had a conversation with the head of digital of a national contractor just last week, who told us about the challenge they've got in terms of skills dearth. And what's been really heartwarming today are the amount of students that have been walking around the exhibition on the trade supply side, but then coming into digital as well. And I think we all have a responsibility to not only invest, but to mentor them into the roles and give them that latitude and that freedom to express themselves and support us as well.
Good. Stuart, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hope you found this video from Fabric useful. For more, don't forget to subscribe, browse our playlists, and please like or share this video. Thanks for watching.